The times, they are a-changin', and it's time for another Top 10 Comics to Invest in Before It's Too Late list. Let's see what books made the list for the summer of 2022. You've probably noticed that the markets have been taking it on the chin lately. Stocks, bonds, crypto, and comics all the same. And while a natural ebb and flow is expected along the slow and steady increase in value that comics typically see, coming off of the steep increases in value over 2020 and 2021, it can be alarming, particularly if you're newly back in the hobby and may have been buying at the top of the market. In uncertain times, money flows to stability, and that's why you will notice that this list doesn't wander too far off the beaten path. These 10 books, while diverse, are all established keys or notable back issues. There are no flavors of the week or wild specs here. This top 10 are all books I would consider great long-term holds. Kicking off the top 10 comics to invest in for the summer of 2022 is a classic Bronze Age DC offering, Swamp Thing #1. Swamp Thing is a complicated character, first appearing in House of Secrets 92, a book that has seen strong value increases in recent years. The Swamp Thing from House of Secrets 92 isn't the Swamp Thing that most of us know. In that issue, Alex Olson was the man behind the muck. The more well-known Swamp Thing, Alec Holland, debuts in our number 10 book, Swamp Thing #1. Published in October 1972, the Swamp Thing mythos as we know it really begins here. Arcane makes a cameo, barely. The Unmen also have a cameo appearance, and we learn the origin of the Holland Swamp Thing. One last first appearance in this issue is Matthew, or Matt Cable as he's called here. Later on, Morpheus would call him by his full name, Matthew, when the character became the Sandman's Raven. Co-creator artist Bernie Wrightson makes the move over from House of Secrets with the character, but writing duties for the issue were handled by Wolverine co-creator Lynn Wein. Swamp Thing #1 is a natural consolation prize book. People love the character, but the first appearance has priced out a lot of collectors, while this solo title #1 is still quite affordable, as a nice raw copy can be had for just a few $100s. If you're a mid-grade collector, you should be able to snag a copy for $100 or less even. Sticking the hero landing in the #9 position is Captain America Volume 5, #6, the Variant Edition. The market has a few pet peeves. It doesn't like it when a character's first appearance is contested. It doesn't like it when a first appearance is diluted over a number of issues. Think about the first appearance, first costume appearance, etc. And then finally, it annoys the market when a character doesn't even appear on the cover of their first appearance. How do I know that? Books where a character appears on the cover of their first appearance get a big bump compared to first appearances where the debuting character doesn't appear on the cover. Captain America 6 is a book where you can choose your own adventure. You can get the A cover with Captain America on the cover, or you can get the variant or the B cover with the Winter Soldier gracing the cover of his first appearance issue. Unsurprisingly, the variant with the Winter Soldier on the cover is the more valuable issue. In fact, despite being more valuable, it's an issue that is quite affordable in the current market. In 9/8, this issue averaged a sales price of $616 in 2021. Over the last 30 days, with 8 sales included, the 90-day average sales price is just $355. Falcon and the Winter Soldier is well out of sight and out of mind right now, and even with rumblings of Captain America 4 starting to creep into the conversation, this key first appearance is as affordable as it has been at any time since 2020. Published back in June 2005, this Steve Epting and Ed Brubaker offering comes from one of my favorite storylines of the last 20 years and seems like a great buy right now, as raw high-grade copies are currently going for slightly over $100. Remember all the way back to 2003? It started off rough with the Columbia Space Shuttle disaster. Lance Armstrong won the Tour de France for the 5th time. A gallon of gas cost just $1.83. Good times, right? But the greatest contribution of 2003 has to be our #8 book, a phenom that shambled its way into pop culture through hit TV shows, video games, toys, and more. The Walking Dead #1. Walking Dead 1 was published in October 2003 from Image Comics, with writer Robert Kirkman and the original series artist Tony Moore handling the creative duties. In this issue, we meet protagonist Rick Grimes for the first time. Needless to say, things don't go well for Rick in the issue, as he not only gets shot, but when he wakes up, it's in a post-apocalyptic world that's been overrun with the undead. Also debuting in Walking Dead 1 is Rick's partner and General Sleazeball Shane Walsh, who was played by John Bernthal before he became Netflix's Frank Castle. The true appeal of Walking Dead #1 is its relative scarcity. With a print run of only 7,266 copies, it is a book that appeals to a large number of collectors and fans with a limited supply available. This has helped the issue maintain a fairly stable price position over the craziness of the last couple of years. In fact, the 90-day average sales price for a 9.8 copy is still 45% higher than the book's average sales price in 2020, and it's only seen a drop of about 6.5% over the 2021 average sales price. That's strong performance compared to many blue chip keys over in the superhero category. Expect to pay upwards of $1,500 for a raw high-grade copy of this book, though there has been an occasional sale between $1,000 and $1,500 here and there. Also, keep an eye out for copies with the words mature readers in black print. These copies make up just a small portion of the print run and can bring higher prices than the more common white text mature readers copies. Take shelter because the Barbarians are at the gate in the #7 spot with Conan the Barbarian #1. The beginning of Barry Windsor Smith's legendary adventure title, Conan 1 was unlike anything else Marvel was publishing when it hit the stands in October 1970. In a story provided by future Marvel editor-in-chief Roy Thomas and interior and cover art from the aforementioned Barry Windsor Smith, Conan the Barbarian made his comic book debut. Conan had originally appeared in the pulps of the 1930s, such as Weird Tales and Strange Tales, in stories written by creator Robert E. Howard, who is deserving of a mention even though he was not involved with his most well-known character's transition into the comic medium. Also making their first cameo appearance in Conan #1 is King Kull, another Howard character from the pulp era, who would go on to make his first appearance in Creatures on the Loose 10. Barry Windsor Smith's work on the Conan title is very highly regarded, and his name routinely comes up in conversation when discussing Marvel's greatest artists in the late Silver and Bronze Ages. Conan #1 has been on a slow and steady grind over the last couple of years, and the increase in value over that time has reached the point where it's really time to shine a light on it. Currently experiencing a slight dip in value, however, kind of like most books right now. CGC 8.5 copies are selling for values not seen since early 2021. For raw copies, a mid-grade issue will run you $300 or $400, while higher grade copies will set you back closer to the $1,000 mark. Washing ashore in the #6 spot is one of my favorite Silver Age DC books, Aquaman #35. Published in October 1967, Aquaman 35 features the first appearance of Black Manta. The character was kinda shoehorned into the 2018 Aquaman movie and was seemingly discarded after a fairly decent fight scene, but if you stuck around for the post-credit scene, you know that Black Manta is likely to pop back up when Aquaman 2 hits theaters next year. In the story titled Between Two Dooms, written by Bob Haney, Aquaman gets his butt kicked by Black Manta, but the Ocean Master, kind of being the selfish type, doesn't want to share his toys and decided that if anybody was going to take out Aquaman, it was going to be him. So naturally, he attacks Black Manta and madness ensues. Thrilling stuff, right? Mike Carty provided the cover and interior art for the story. The last copy of this book I seriously owned for less than 10 minutes, which saved me, honestly, from having to have that conversation with myself, that I can't keep everything that comes in. Recent sales above 6.0 have seen continued increases in value, while 6.0 and below are all in the red over the last 90 days. This is a great book to look into if you're willing to add some Silver Age DC to your collection, and it won't break the bank either. Currently, mid-grade raw copies can be had for around $300, while high-grade copies will be north of the $1,000 mark in the current market. The book that swings into the #5 spot is one of my great LCS regrets. Coming in at #5 is Edge of Spider-Verse #2. Imagine, if you will, me walking into my local comic shop the day after Edge of Spider-Verse 2 comes out. I'm a big Spidey fan, so I pick up the last copy of Edge of Spider-Verse 2 on the wall, and I flip through it. I say, you know, that looks cool, and I put it back on the wall, just thinking generally that I'll pick it up tomorrow, and also assuming that the A cover and the variant are already in my pull list, just like the first issue of the series was. Now, flash forward to the next day, and not only is there not a copy of the A cover or the variant in my pull, but the lone copy that was just in my hand 24 hours before is now gone as well. From that moment on, this November 2014 release has been increasing in value, much to my chagrin. Following the first appearance of Spider-Gwen, Robbie Rodriguez handled the cover and interior art on the Jason Latour story. Checking GPA for this book feels like checking GPA for a book in early 2021, as it's all green. There isn't a single grade where the A cover of Edge of Spider-Verse 2 is currently dropping in value, a rarity in the current market. 9.8 sales are averaging out just under $1,800 over the last 90 days, with a volume of 40 sales to support, while high-grade raw copies are currently selling around the $600 mark. I generally don't get too excited about modern books that reach high values in such short order, but for some reason this book just feels different. I don't know if it's due to my own boneheadedness and FOMO or not, but something about Spider-Gwen, now 8 years on, seems like the character has legs and will likely be around for a while, making this book one you should consider. Our number 4 book is one that exploded back in 2021, but has seen a massive drop in recent sales prices. Falling from its previous highs and back into the sewers from which it came is Raphael number 1. One of the earliest Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comics, Raphael 1 was published between TMNT 3 and TMNT 4 in April of 1985. Debuting in this spin-off one-shot is iconic Ninja Turtle ally Casey Jones. As with all of the earliest TMNT books, this issue was produced through the joint efforts of creators Peter Laird, who handled the story, and Kevin Eastman, who took the lead on the art for this particular issue. After peaking at $1,450 for a CGC 9.2 copy in January of 2021, the current 90-day average for that same 9.2 copy is just $577 over the last 4 sales. This is a drop of nearly 38% over the 2021 average sales price of $929. If you drop down to an 8.0 copy, the current 90-day average is down 48% when compared to the 2021 average sales price. While this may not sound like good news, here's why this book is on the list. The Ninja Turtles are a massive intellectual property with a multi-generational fan base. New TMNT projects are always in the works. A well-received video game featuring the Turtles was just released, and 2 different film projects are currently in the works. What we have here is an opportunity to get into a key issue for the property at prices below 2020 values in some grades. With the steep drop in slabbed values, you should be able to pick this thing up raw for a couple of $100, though it may take some negotiation and some sharing of data on your part to convince a seller of that, as Raphael number 1 has fallen off as quickly as it blew up. Fantastic Four books are so hot right now. Namor, Doom, Black Panther, Silver Surfer, you name something that came out of the Fantastic Four, and chances are it's being spec'd on in this market. However, for some reason, one of the more obvious spec books from the title is getting no love, but no more. Our number 3 book is Fantastic Four 18, the first appearance of the Super Skrull. So check this out. Spoiler alert here. The Skrulls? They're already in the MCU. We've seen them. They exist. They're the focus of an upcoming show called Secret Invasion. We're going to see them again. So what gives? Why are we not talking about them? Are they hiding in plain sight, hidden among us, just waiting for the right moment to attack? That would be just like them. Fantastic Four 18 was published in September 1963, and it's just the second appearance of the Skrulls, who originally appeared back in Fantastic Four number 2. You know, back before the Fab Four even had costumes or a flying bathtub. Additionally, in this issue, we see the Skrull Emperor for the first time, though we don't really know who he is, and we also meet the Super Skrull, who wields the combined powers of the Fantastic Four. As with all early Fantastic Four issues, This tale was brought to us by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, just a couple of dudes that you may have heard of before. There haven't been a lot of sales for FF18 lately. In fact, only 2 grades have had multiple sales in the last 90 days, and the book is feeling the crunch of the recent price correction. Most recently, a CGC 5.0 copy sold for $709 back in July, the lowest sale seen in this grade since March of 2021. For raw copies, mid-grade books have recently been selling around $500, but the most recent sales indicate a softening down to the $300 or $400 mark. Will we see the Super Skrull in the MCU? Nobody knows just yet, but there is no doubting that the Super Skrull is a major Fantastic Four villain, and there is more than ample opportunity for the character to step into the MCU in the future. The runner-up in our top 10 is a book as iconic as the creators who made it, Green Lantern 76. Over the course of comic book history, there have been key creative teams that revolutionized the industry. I just mentioned Lee and Kirby, and Eastman and Laird as well. Others that come to mind are Finger and Kane, Miller and Mazzucchelli, Wolfman and Perez. And our number 2 book, Green Lantern 76, brings us Adams and O'Neill. Published in April 1970, Green Lantern 76 was a turning point for DC Comics that would go on to influence the entire market. With the introduction of real-world themes into the stories and Adams' signature artistic style, Green Lantern 76 was unlike anything else on the stands when it was released. The beginning of the hard-traveling heroes arc, the simplest way to put it is that this run is simply required reading for all comic book fans. With the status this book holds in the market, it is fortunate to remain relatively unaffected by the current value correction, as values across all slab grades remain stable, with most showing small gains, and the few decreases that are present are negligible, often just a matter of a few dollars. 6.5s have had the most sales in the last 90 days and are currently averaging a sales price of $616 across 7 sales. Raw issues are fairly comparable, with mid-grade copies bringing in the neighborhood of $500. Green Lantern 76 is as blue chip of a book as you're going to find from the late Silver Age of DC Comics. Topping the list of comics to invest in before it's too late for the summer of 2022 is one of the most criminally undervalued Silver Age Marvel books that I can think of, Iron Man and Submariner #1. Published in April of 1968, Iron Man and Submariner 1 bridges the gap between Tales of Suspense 99 and Iron Man 1 for Iron Man, and Tales of Suspense 101 and Submariner #1 for Namor. Gene Colan provides a fantastic cover for the issue, arguably one of the most dynamic covers to come out of Marvel for the entire Silver Age, but as great as this one is, he one-ups himself just the following month with the cover to Iron Man #1. The guy was simply on fire. The sad thing is that even after a bit of a bounce in the value department over the last few years, Iron Man and Submariner 1 is still underappreciated and undervalued in the market. The current 90-day average for a CGC 9.2 copy is just $1,149, with the most recent sale in June 2022 going for only $900. Now, let's compare that to Iron Man 1 and Submariner 1. For Iron Man #1, the 90-day average for a CGC 9.2 is $4,200. For Submariner #1, CGC 9.2 copies have a 90-day average sales price of $2,578. That in itself is double the value of Iron Man and Submariner #1 in the same grade. I guess some things in life just don't make sense. Raw copies will run you in the neighborhood of $200 for mid-grade copies, that is, while really nice high-grade copies have been climbing up to the $1,000 mark. Keep an eye out for this Silver Age classic. Chances are it's going to be sitting there looking all lonely in search of a new home. What a roller coaster ride we've been on over the last couple of years. If you're new to collecting comics, I want to assure you that it's not always like this. Typically, it's a nice, relaxing hobby that you can enjoy with friends and other collectors for the most part. However, the advantage you have now is this great online community. When I first started collecting, there was no community where I was. And believe me, what we have now is so much better than those OG comic book chat rooms and boards online. My point in all of this is that if you've been enjoying the hobby up to this point, I hope you continue to stay with it. We all go through different seasons in life and in the hobby, and those seasons impact how we live and how we collect. If times get tough and you have to step away, we'll be here for you when you get back. And if you are in a spot where you have to let some things go, let them go. I'll share some of the best advice I've heard another content creator share. The market lets you buy things back. Very, very few things in this hobby are so exclusive that they're simply irreplaceable. So if letting something go lets you get to where you need to be, let it go and know that another copy will be there for you when you decide it's time to bring it home. Shout out to Neo Cards and Comics for the wisdom. Check out his channel if you haven't yet. It's pretty good stuff. Lastly, in a recent totally scientific poll conducted on the community tab of the channel, 62% of the 231 respondents said that they were buying less comics due to the economy. I'm right there with you. Como was buying like crazy, but Drew isn't doing much buying at all right now. Instead, I'm chilling out at home, working through all the new inventory that's coming in, firing up my smoker, and making content for you in the community. In times like these, we just have to pivot. That can be pivoting to filling runs as opposed to filling keys. Pivoting from Silver Age keys to Copper Age keys, or what have you. The good news is that there are opportunities out there, and a number of books that were just a bit out of reach a few months ago are now available at reasonable prices. So if your pivot is from quantity to quality, you may be able to check some boxes off that might surprise you as we navigate through these interesting times that we're living in. Happy hunting out there. Collect responsibly, and I'll see you in the next one.